going on, Jerome's? It's beautiful Thursday. Birds are chirping and stuff, and it's time for another Vikings news dump. And also, no one has any idea if I'm wearing any pants. Maybe we'll start a spicy site. I don't know. Lots of options for new revenue streams in 2024. But first up is, Josh Metellus. And Josh Metellus has quickly become the Swiss Army knife of the Vikings defense. He's really thrived in Flores' scheme. And the Michigan man is branching out, starting a podcast and stuff. And also get a little bit more vocal on the old socials, calling out Alex Boone, which was fantastic, which we talked about, and also getting into some draft analysis. Of course, Metellus knows a thing or two about quarterbacks. He reads them for a living. So Metellus put out there, Drake May is slowly but surely closing that gap on QB1, Caleb Williams. The more tape I watch, the better. I'm entitled to speculate like any other football lover. And in a weird way, I feel like Drake May more than any other prospect during draft season. Now Williams during college football season, yes, but I feel like Drake May has been criticized and nitpicked and picked apart more than any other prospect, which is kind of odd. All right, so I feel like Daniels has skated, Penix has been picked apart, Nix has been whatever, McCarthy's been picked apart too, although I think McCarthy's rock solid. And yes, like we said during the season, Caleb Williams, I mean, that's all the talk was, like him crying, blah, 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 right? So I think that, Metellus is entitled to his own opinion, of course, and I think that Drake May is going to be good, man. I really think so. If the Vikings, say if Kirk leaves, and the Vikings make a move for a quarterback, I think that Drake May could be in their sights if he gets past Washington at 2. I think that's the sweet spot. The opposite of the sweet spot. So I feel like sometimes people just say things on social media just to get a reaction. And I feel like we may have fell for this one. Actually, most of Vikings Twitter fell for this one. But again, as someone who says outlandish things for a quasi side hustle, I mean, I get it, man. So Stroud Muse, obviously a Houston Texans fan site. Texans get Justin Jefferson. Vikings get pick 23. Ooh. Tank Dell and a 2025 second. If the Vikings offer this for Justin Jefferson, you accept it. If Kwesi offered this trade, not only would he be fired, I think that there would be a movement to launch him into outer space. I think that Kwesi, now beyond, hey, start learning Chinese, Kwesi would be on Mars. He would be the first colonist out there, because this would be absolute lunacy. And not only Kwesi, but Ryan Grigson, the entire scouting department. Well, not even scouting, just just cancel the franchise if this happens. Now, don't get me wrong, Tank Dell is an absolute stud. It's really stupid the way that he broke his leg, being an inside blocker down at the goal line. But he's not Justin Jefferson, and I don't care that it's a first and a second. I do not care at all. Now, if they even want to entertain this trade, it would be 23, future first rounder, and Tank Dell. So 3 1s and Tank Dell. So then, if that's it, get back to us. If not, whatever. It's sort of like the Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars, where they have a Super Bowl ring, where he's like, I don't want to sell it, but I have to put a price on it, so I'll just say $100,000. Like, no one's gonna pay $100,000 for a bench warmer Super Bowl ring. But whatever. Anyways, speaking of buying things, so Adrian Peterson apparently is having an estate sale. But, I mean, there's a couple layers with this. So, yes, it was reported that Adrian Peterson's memorabilia is for sale at a well-renowned sports memorabilia auction house. But then Adrian came back because, I mean, there was some high-end things in there, like his Rookie of the Year trophy, his NFL MVP from 2012 was on that list. And he clapped back and just like, my stuff's being sold without my consent. I'm not broke. So he put out a video saying that he's threatening a lawsuit, and apparently, like, he's selling some of his stuff, but not the trophies, like not the high-end good stuff, because if you go on their site, like, they have a lot of things like autographed jerseys, like shoes, lots of different pairs of designer shoes that apparently were owned by Adrian, some signed football, some game balls, etc. But I don't know. Well, a couple things are true. Is Adrian selling some things? Yes. Yeah, and does Adrian need the money? Who knows? Like, Adrian's money issues have been well documented, even though he earned over $100 million on the field. But Is it also a spot where maybe he's just trying to liquidate some stuff and just sort of get rid of things or filling up storage units? Sure. But also, did they go too far? Like, did Adrian say, like, hey, you can take all this stuff and sell it, but then they grabbed, like, his Rookie of the Year trophy as well as MVP trophy? Maybe. Who knows, man? But I don't know. Like, if the MVP trophy is actually for sale, if you guys want to crowdsource some funding and we'll make a bid, that'd be hilarious, man. That'd be fantastic. It's just like, hey, in the background, beyond the Jordans and the Adam Thielen first down flakes, the 2012 NFL MVP trophy. Because why not, man? Speaking of why not, so we put out a couple of videos today about, or we will be putting out a couple of videos today about how the Vikings need to build a bully on the inside. But if they don't want to do that and they want to continue this undersized, lateral movement, wide zone offensive line, okay, let's play that game. But the Rams are cutting Brian Allen in a cap-saving move. Now, Brian Allen, the pride of Michigan State, has had some really good seasons. And we tweeted out Brian Allen's best season was in 2021 with Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips with the Rams when they won the Super Bowl. And Brian Allen got himself a nice 3-year contract. He's had some bad injury luck since then, and the Rams are moving on. And Brian Allen, I don't think that he's going to sign starter money anywhere, but bringing him aboard as a high-end backup and potential competition for Garrett Bradbury, yes. I mean, he is a sort of an undersized center in the Garrett Bradbury mold as well, but I think that he is a guy that has familiarity with what Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips wanted to do on offense. I think that he would fit in very nicely, and I think that, Schlutman is fine. I think Brian Allen would be better. Schlutman is a utility backup. I think that's his ceiling. I think Brian Allen, if he can stay healthy, I think that he could potentially push Bradbury for a starting spot, or at least give the Vikings a viable option, alternative. So there you go. Also, so the Vikings yesterday announced that they re-signed exclusive rights free agent safety Theo Jackson. Theo plays some great special teams. Now, can it just be that the Vikings brought back one of their core special teams guys and a great fringe roster dude who was up and down from the practice squad and on the fringe of the 53 for the league minimum, just over $1 million? Can it just be that, as opposed to, oh, what does this mean for Harrison Smith? Or, what does this mean for Lewis Cine? Now, it is noteworthy that Theo Jackson played special teams ahead of Cine last year, but also I don't think that Lewis Cine was fully healthy. It's going to take a while for him to come back from that compound fracture in his leg, and maybe he'll never come back. Like maybe he'll never get back to the level where he was before the injury. So who knows, man? But again, does this mean anything for Harrison Smith? Not particularly. I think that even if Harrison was back or if he wasn't, I think they would have re-signed Theo Jackson either way. So I don't think it makes much of an impact. But again, this time of year, everything means something, man. Also, so one of my pet peeves, but also one of my favorite things to talk about, is all the offseason speculations like, oh, this player took down all the pictures of him in that team's uniform, so he must want to trade, or he unfollowed them on social media, blah, blah, blah. So a big to-do was made about Justin Fields unfollowing the Bears on Instagram, but also he still had Chicago Bears in his bio, but that doesn't matter. But he went on the St. Browns podcast with Equimanis and Amon-Ra, Sun God, and he was asked about it, like why he unfollowed the Bears on Instagram. And Justin Fields low-key hilarious, and he delivered probably one of the best lines I've ever heard. Just because you don't follow the girl on Instagram doesn't mean you're not messing with them. Which is, that one is up there with Gino's. They wrote me off. I ain't right back though, which is great. Also, so this is the more impressive part. So Gino didn't have this canned. Like, he didn't have this in his back pocket. He was specifically asked, or he was stated by the reporter at the end of the game, a lot of people wrote you off. So, Gino was just like that. So that's what makes it even more impressive, as opposed to having a prepared monologue. It's great, man. But, I think that Fields is done. I think that, Kevin Warren coming out and saying great things about Justin Fields, I think that's more a smokescreen or a way to keep up his trade value. Will they get a first-round pick? I doubt it. Could they get a second-round pick or equivalent value? Yes, I think that's more likely, but we'll see. I do think that they would have severe FOMO if they passed up on Caleb Williams and he turns out to pan on the potential that he's supposed to have. Lastly, no, we got a couple more. So Purple Persuasion. as I die. The Purple Persuasion put this together. Dane Brugler talking about the Vikings potentially in the market for a quarterback. Quote, one of the worst kept secrets in last year's draft was how much the Vikings wanted to draft a quarterback. Now, that's been bandied about quite a bit amongst draft people. And yeah, the Vikings, would they have traded up for would they have traded up and gotten Anthony Richardson if they could have? Sure. And I don't think that changes, especially with Kirk Cousins flapping in the wind right now. Dan Brugler said today, he went on, it's fair to assume, again, they're going to be hunting quarterbacks in the draft. If I'm J.J. McCarthy, this is where I want to go. Hell, if you're any of the rookie quarterbacks, Minnesota is where you want to go. You got JJ, you got tackles, you got Addison, and also you got Hockenson eventually. Plus, you have offensive-minded young head coach Kevin O'Connell, and that defense is only getting better. So, plus you play indoors. Plus you have a relatively young football team. So, yeah, I think the Vikings are going to get a quarterback either way, even if they re-sign Kirk. But we'll see. Lastly, so the college football playoff, I think it's good. And I actually don't mind the 4-team format right now. Now, they do need to do something about the meaninglessness of some of the other bowl games. And also, there's too many of them, but that's an argument for another day. Hey, I'll take extra football. It's perfectly fine. The Duke Mayo Bowl or the Bahamas Bowl, let's go. But expanding the playoff, it's going to happen because there's too much money involved. But at a certain point, it's too much. It's like if college basketball went to a 128 team bracket. I mean, what's the point? Like, if you don't make so there's like 300 Division I basketball teams. If you don't make 128, like, you're a loser. just you're gone. But Pro Football College put this out. The College Football Management Committee discussed the idea of a 14-team playoff in meetings today, per Pete Thamel. Nothing is imminent, but if approved one day, it will begin. But if approved one day, it would begin in 2026. So, not this year, not next year, blah, blah, blah. It's, I don't know, like 14 seems way too much. And DraftKings formulated what this would look like this year. So, Arizona would have been the 14th seed at 9-3. Arizona does not deserve to be in the playoff. And that's the thing, too, where I feel like some of the games become meaningless. And say, like, 9 seed down, I mean, their players are going to sit out. And that's also a big issue with some of the bowl games. Like, they're going to sit out. They're going to enter the transfer portal. They're going to get ready for the draft, which is, again, their prerogative, but it's ridiculous. Also, so with 14 teams, there will be 4 rounds. 2 teams get bye. So you go 14-8 to 4-2. I mean, teams like Texas, teams like Oregon, teams like Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, if they go all the way, they would play in 17 games, which I understand. I mean, that's fine for the NFL, but this is college. That's pretty ridiculous. I think the perfect there's no perfect solution, but I think a good compromise would be 8. All right, so 8 is still all right. So Oregon would get in. So Oregon would have gotten in. The Ohio State would have gotten in, sure. But and first teams out would have been Missouri, Penn State. I don't think anyone would have made that big of a stink that Missouri and Penn State are out. But Florida State would have been in at 5, even with Jordan Travis dinged up. Maybe Verse and company. Maybe they play in the bowl games. Who knows? Georgia obviously getting in at 6. I think that's fine. And also, you have to think too. Like, if you expand it too far, you're not going to get fans to travel to every single one of these games because say you're Alabama and you're the 4 seed. And Alabama's got a great fan base and what apparently would have been Nick Saban's last ride. But would they have traveled for 4 different games? I don't know. Like, that adds up, man. So I don't think you would have had the fanfare of some of these bowl games. I think the best would have been 8. So 8 where the top 4 seeds host the first round of the playoff. And so that'd be great. I mean, imagine Michigan, the big house, hosting the 8 seed, which would have been Oregon in a snow game in Ann Arbor. Let's go, man. That would have been fantastic. But also, then after the first round, you just have your Final Four, and then just play it out the way that it's done currently. So I don't think that there's a perfect solution, but I think that expanding it too much waters down getting in. Because the regular season has to matter to a degree, and it can't just be a spot where, hey, we started out 2-4, but we got hot at the right time. We snuck in as the 14 seed, and then we made a run. Right? That's fair. But that's it. Vikings Thursday dump. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.